Good morning, church family. Yesterday as we were looking at the beginning of Colossians, there in chapter 1, verse 6, it talked about how we're to be bearing fruit and how that bearing fruit and it growing in us was to be happening rapidly from the moment that we heard it, which really is what a vendetta or a major wake-up call, I think, for all of us. Because if we truly have been born again, then why is it that we're not excited, and why is it that we're not still, on fire for the Lord like we were when we first heard the good news? You see, for the early church, there was no mediocrity. There was no just taking it easy or coasting. They had to be faithful. They had to be active. They had to be aggressive, because their lives was literally dependent upon it. They didn't know how much time they would have to share before they would be possibly martyred. They didn't know how much time they had to share before Christ's return, because remember, many of them, when they heard the angel say, just as you have seen him enter into the clouds, so shall he return. And some of them took that "you" as meaning they personally would be alive when the Lord returned. Now, we know that he didn't. And to be honest, we don't know when he's coming back. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And at the same time, if you want to inject the "if" in there, if there was ever a more, better time or more acceptable time for him to come, we are more on top of that return than ever before. And so, as we talked about yesterday, I hope that you have at least one person that you're praying every day for, that they will come to Christ. Surely every one of us knows at least one. I know one just next door. I have another down the street. There are others around me that I don't know by name, but it's obvious by the pattern of their lives, and also by the fact that very few leave this neighborhood on any given Sunday to go and worship somewhere. It seems to be quite obvious that there are more lost people around us than there are saved. And so I want to just really beg you and urge you this week to really make it a priority to start praying by name for those that you know that are lost, and praying that God will use you or put somebody in their path, that God will protect your testimony this week, that when you're in their presence, you'll be able to really exemplify a heart that's filled with love for them, a heart that shows forgiveness, unconditional love, not unconditional acceptance, because we should never be acceptive of sin, but we can still unconditionally love them and challenge them to what it really means to walk in the presence and the promise of a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so this week as you go out, my prayer is that you will bear fruit, and that it will produce in you, that it will become a norm on any Sunday, you or another church member walking a friend, an associate, or someone down the aisle, and having them tell me, just as it did yesterday, this friend of mine has been just sharing Jesus. This friend of mine has walked with me through this challenge, through this episode of life. And as a result of that, in the most recent weeks, I've come to trust Jesus as my Savior. You see, that's what being the church is being the gospel fleshed out, lived out before a lost and hurting world. Well, God bless you. Have a great week. Pray and ask God to show you who that one is, and then urgently bombard the throne with that name, and be available, be ready for him to use you to hopefully bring that one to Christ. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.